Welcome to The Dental Brief, the podcast that delivers actionable insights and expert strategies to help dental professionals like you grow, lead, and succeed. I'm your host, Patrick Shavasty, the president of Omni Premier Marketing. Every week at The Dental Brief, we bring you real conversations from expert speakers that offer expert advice and quick tips that make a real difference in practices nationwide. Whether you're a general dentist or run a multi-location practice, we've got you covered with content that's designed to help you attract more patients, to streamline your operations, reduce headaches in managing your practice, and increase your profitability. If you're ready to elevate your practice, be sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and let's dive into today's episode of The Dental Brief. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Dental Brief. I am excited for today's guest coming to us from Australia. She works with dentists all over the country. Julie Parker, say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be back, Patrick.
It's always great to have you here, sharing your wealth of knowledge and information, doing it for free. I'm going to let people refer to other episodes to find out how you got involved in dentistry and how you started working with dentists. It's always a fun story. I'm going to talk about your website real quickly, which is dentalbusinessmastery.com.au, because you are located in Australia. Julie, why don't you tell me how you've been and what's going on in dentistry right now?
I've been great down here in Australia. We just mentioned before we've entered into summer, and so that's been an up and down process for Melburnians anyway, where I am. Hot, blazing hot one moment and then pouring down with rain the next, but it's all part of the variety that we love here in Melbourne. From a dental perspective, I thought I would mention something in today's episode that has been coming up for me in essence over many, many years, but has really come to a critical point where I did far further investigation into it with a recent client of ours. And that is the tendency for dental practices to start to overcompensate very loyal long-term team members. And you would initially think to yourself, well, we should be overcompensating them. They're here for 20 years, 15 years. They've got an enormous amount of knowledge about the practice in their brains. They're valuable to us. And so for all the obvious reasons, we say, no, when those people come to me and say, I would like a pay rise, we go, of course, because we want you to stay and we want you to be happy. And that has always been my thought process too. When I go through a remuneration process for dental practices for their auxiliary team members, recognizing that it does encompass more than just how they affect their roles and their responsibilities within their roles. And we go into other skills such as, are they reliable and are they a great team player, and all these other characteristics that go into a great team player. One of those positives that move toward having a pay increase is another year loyalty. I've always been of the mindset that another year loyalty is worth something in Australian dollars. I usually say it's worth $1. An extra $1 per hour is what that is worth. And there's always been something niggling with that, and it's really come to the fore over the last few months. And that is what happens when that team member who's been around for ages, and I think a lot of us have worked with people like this, who've got the very best of intentions, but they're so firmly set in their comfort zone within the organisation that they end up being the ones through, I don't like change, I don't see how that would work. They're the ones putting the brakes on for anything changing or growing within the organisation.
Yeah. It's ironic, isn't it?
It is. And so then we find ourselves begrudgingly giving this person a pay rise where you're like, crikey, but it's because of you that the initiatives that I want to implement within my practice can't actually be actioned.
Yeah. So this is a really tricky question, and it might not be for you, but I think it would be for a lot of people. How do you determine what to pay someone? It's not just market, right? I mean, market doesn't, because it's kind of like if we were to say, well, what's the market price on a car?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at classic, there's cars that are $1 million, literally $1 million. There's cars that are worth nothing. So market value is really hard to determine, don't you think?
Absolutely. And when I have been approached by clients and potential clients saying, we really need to get a great team member on board, let's just call it, a dental assistant on board. And I'll say to them, what's your pay range that you're looking at? And they don't give me a range. They just say, $28 an hour. That's what we pay our dental assistants, $28 an hour. And it's very restrictive. So my next question then is, well, there is a range of people out there. And I want you to imagine getting somebody on board who is just doing enough not to get fired. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got an absolute superstar. They actually help train other team members. They're a great team player. They're the ones that are deactivating gossip rather than starting it. They're the ones that are reliable, turn up every single time, professionally attired. They've got great communication, patient rapport building skills. They become like the master that you say, if all my team members acted like that person, I'd be blissfully happy. And you're saying that these two people will both fall into the category of, $28 an hour? They're not going to. And so I do encourage dental practice owners and managers that when you're going through a recruitment process, have a think about those two extremes and get a range. Because if you are out there saying $28 an hour, you'll get people who find their contribution and worth at $28 an hour applying. You won't get the people that say, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm constantly learning and growing. I'm spectacular at what I do. There's no way I'm applying for that job, though. It's only $28 an hour. I deserve $35 an hour, for example.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Let's talk about emotional intelligence, emotional IQ, if you will, when it comes to this stuff. So when a team member does ask you for a raise, and I know this is a blanket statement because it seems like you would handle it differently, whether it's a fantastic employee or one that you're like considering replacing, right? There's going to be variants of where that employee is. But what's the smartest way to handle this is to take a step back, to maybe slow things down a little bit, to give yourself some time to think about this, but also not to blow off something that's incredibly important to the team member. So what are some smart ways that you can handle that question or that statement, I need a raise?
And I think not being shy of being completely transparent is the advice there. So quite often we are afraid to ask somebody, you would like a pay rise? What do you think you're actually worth? Because we're afraid their price is going to be too high. Will they not be able to meet that? And then we'll make them unhappy working there or they'll end up leaving. And so we're afraid of that information. But what happens if we don't have that information? They feel that way anyway. We just don't know about it. And then one day someone quits and we're like, why'd they quit? I thought they were happy. And I remember hearing once on a podcast that if your employee quits and you didn't see it coming, then that's a fault on your behalf. You haven't had the kind of relationship where that person felt safe enough to be open with you. And so I think just have that decision in your head. I would prefer to know all the truth rather than know half the truth and feel more comfortable. And if you can say to somebody, tell me more about that. You would like a pay rise. Tell me more about that. What's been going on for you? And that's when they start saying, well, I turn up to work all the time. And you in your mind might think, but that's what you paid for anyway. But then when you ask them to expand on things, they say, and none of the others do. I'm the only one that does. And so why aren't I rewarded? They're rewarded in essence because they get more time off and they still get their pay packet. And so then if you can create an environment where they're sharing and you're not interrupting, you're not judging, you're listening, you're looking them in the eye, seeking to truly understand where this person's at. That's where you can also have great transparency in your communication and say, I hear you. And traditionally, I wouldn't have said that you would deserve a pay rise because that's what you're paid to do in my mind, coming just from a business perspective. But the further information you gave me, I think there might be validity in that. So I want you to leave it with me and for me to think about that, and I'll meet up with you again and we can discuss it further. But as long as you've got that level of communication going, they're going to respect the things that you say more because you've sought to find out and discover what their reality is and you've respected their reality. Whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't actually end up mattering, because you have to eventually make a decision based upon viability of the business, given that this person's going to get a pay rise and the ramifications. My ideal world is having an environment, and I think this is completely achievable, having an environment where all your team members can share what they earn per hour. They also understand why that person earns more than me. And as a person that earns less, I know exactly what I need to do to actually increase my pay level and to actually list all of those other expectations, those soft skills, EQ stuff of level of engagement, level of participation in staff meetings, ideas brought to the table on how to make things better, supportive team member, all those things so they know exactly what their next step is.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're 100% right. I don't think anyone could really have a really smart argument against that at all. I think it's really hard to do. I also think as an employer in a small business, and most of the people you and I are talking to are small business owners, I think you should want it to be part of your responsibility to figure out how to get your team members what they're looking for. If you have a team member in the US money and that says, I want to make $300,000 a year, you're like, all right, great, let's figure out how to get you into dental school, right? If you want to be in the dental industry, let's help you get a job with Patterson or Shine, because you're not going to be able to do it as an assistant at work, right? It's just not feasible. That's fine. But I think absolutely understanding what their goals are and then helping them find a pathway to those goals is a really beautiful thing to happen, right? It is going to work out financially. I think it always works out financially. It might mean they're not with you for a long time, but you know when they're going to transition outside of your practice, right? You know their goal is to not be here. Their goal is to be a dentist. Okay, great. That's what that looks like. They're going to work for me for the next 2 years while they're in this role. And then I know exactly when they're going to leave. They're going to be able to help me bring somebody on in. It works. It really can work really well. Julie, what other advice do you have when it comes to money, employees, pay, income, time off, all that good stuff?
It's also the environment that you create for them. How many times have we heard that I know I could get paid more elsewhere, but I wouldn't be able to work with this team. I wouldn't be able to work for this boss with these patients. And so recognizing that money becomes a bigger issue for people when the environment is dropping. And at the moment, we've had, for the last number of years, a bit of a crisis in terms of the number of dental auxiliary team members available for employment and a rising rate of sick leave, people taking sick leave. And so one of the things that needs to be having systems in place to manage it super well, because it creates so much pressure on the remaining team, is catering for sick leave. Don't function on a reduced number of people, putting everybody under the pump on a consistent basis and think that's okay. And it's not going to have some sort of detrimental effect. It used to happen. You'd have a really bad day, maybe twice a year, maybe 4 times a year, and you could live with it. But now I'm seeing in practices, it's happening every single week. And so the remaining team members are feeling put upon and pressured, overwhelmed, to starting talking about, I need more work-life balance. I need to be able to do more self-care, because they're actually feeling under the pump. And so recognize that even though you may not be able to meet what they want financially, then say to them, we can't meet that financially, but I passionately want you to stay because I love all these wonderful things about you and your contribution to the practice. What else can we do in terms of improving the environment that you yourself are happier turning up to work every day, and take immediate action on those sort of things as well.
Yep. Makes a ton of sense to me. We got about a minute or two here left. Tell us a little bit about your course. What are people going to find there?
Yeah, if you jump on the website, you'll find that we do consulting with dental practices and workshops and things like that. For the broader globe, we've got our dental practice management course, and that is a 1-year online course, fully supported. We have live sessions every week with that, and that goes through all of the key elements of that fulfill a dental practice management role. So we're teaching you how to have difficult conversations, how to build your respect and confidence with your team, how to set a goal, create a plan to achieve that goal, all of the unique dental patient interactions that we have, how to get them to come in for recalls, how to engage them in their treatment plans. It has all of that stuff, including compliance, systems, HR, how to hire great people, how to keep great people with you as well. And so that is a 1-year course. It runs throughout the year. The live sessions run from February through to the end of November. But there's assignments, you get a certificate at the end, and you learn so much. But in essence, with these live sessions every week, you get coaching every week as well. So I would encourage people to look into that.
Sounds like a great way to save yourself a lot of headaches and a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
So folks, check it out. Again, dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. Julie Parker, thanks as always. Brilliant. Glad to have you here.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dental Brief. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a colleague who could benefit. We're here to help dental professionals like you stay ahead of the curve, one brief episode at a time. You can find more episodes and resources at thedentalbrief.com. You can also join the Growth-Minded Dentist community on Facebook. Links are in the description. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and thanks for being part of the Dental Brief community.